Hi again, Risa here, back with another episode of Ask Risa. This is my weekly video series where I provide some wedding planning advice and answer questions that you might be having as you are trying to plan your own wedding. There are a bunch of other videos in this series. On Instagram, you can find those all on my IGTV, which is on my profile. And on YouTube, you can find them all on my YouTube channel, which is under Risa James Events, and they're all grouped together by a playlist. This is episode 40, so you'll know you're in the right place if you start seeing earlier episodes like in the 30s. So this week, I am going to talk about catering service charges, what they are, and how to be prepared for them. I was having a conversation with a client yesterday and we were reviewing a catering quote, and this topic came up and I was explaining it to my client, and I realized that this would be a good topic to talk about in one of these videos because there's a lot of confusion and opacity around this subject. So when you get a catering quote, an actual quote, not just a menu, there's basically going to be four main pricing components to it. One, obviously, is the food. That's the main service they're providing, is the actual food. Two is going to be staffing. So they'll need chefs. And if you're doing a carving station, there's going to be a charge for a carving chef. There's always a captain who's in charge of the catering team. And then you'll have serving staff. And if the caterers are also providing bar services, then there'll be bartenders, staff for that. So staff is its own line item. Then if they are providing any rental items, if you're getting plates and flatware and glasses and linens and maybe even tables and chairs possibly from your caterer, then that'll be a separate section of the quote. And then lastly, it's going to be taxes and fees. And that's where the kicker is. That's always the part that nobody anticipates. And it can add up to a lot. Taxes, you obviously can't do anything about. Wherever you live, that's the tax rate that's going to be added onto your order. And some wedding vendors like me, I'm a planner, I only provide a service. I don't have to charge tax because all I'm providing is a service. I'm not providing anything tangible. But with caterers, they're providing both intangible things like staffing, but they're also providing tangible items like food. So that's why they have to charge tax where some other wedding vendors don't. So the service charge, despite the fact that it says service right in the name, has nothing to do with the serving staff. Like I said before, that's a totally separate charge. The service charge is usually a percentage. I've seen them range anywhere from 10% to 20%. So it's just going to be a percentage of your total once you take into account the cost of food, the cost of staff, and the cost of rentals. So the more you're spending on those other things, the higher your service charge is going to be because it's a percentage of the total and it's not a flat fee. So what is it? That's what I'm trying to get to here. Basically, it's a fee that covers the catering company's overhead. It's sort of their covering their cost of doing business. So catering companies and restaurants operate on really thin margins. The cost of food is high. That's like their most expensive business expense, as far as I know. But there's only so much of a markup that they can put on food before it gets absurd. But they have a lot of other expenses besides just buying the food. Obviously, they need physical space. They need a kitchen and a place to prepare food. And they generally need vehicles because people who are providing catering, they're usually either cooking or at least prepping food off-site, and then they're trucking it to where your location is, and then either heating it up or finalizing it, or maybe they're cooking from scratch. A lot of barbecue companies cook from scratch on-site. But anyway, they need vehicles to get that stuff there and to get all the people and, you know, the stuff that you're renting and things like that there. So those are expensive. And then they also have all the stuff that comes with serving food, all those chafing dishes, all those serving utensils, you know, anything else that they keep in inventory, they have to cover those costs. And so that's what the service charge is for. It's not a gratuity. It doesn't go to the staff. That's totally different. The staffing charge is separate. And if you want to put on a gratuity or give cash gratuity for the serving staff later, that's your business. That's not part of the original quote. But a lot of catering companies are not very good at explaining this or making it clear that A, this charge exists, and B, what it is. I do wish that more companies would be more upfront about this and explain it better to clients, but it's just, that is the way it is. So keep in mind, when you are reaching out to caterers and they're sending you their menus and they're sending you sample menus or they're sending you packages or things like that, the prices that you're seeing on those are the cost of the food. So if you're looking at a package that's, you know, $35 per person and you know you have 100 people coming, you're not just looking at $3,500. You're looking at a lot more than $3,500 because that's just the food. You haven't taken into account any rentals, you haven't taken into account any staffing, and you haven't taken into account the service charge or the taxes. A lot of times, a lot of the menus and sample packages that I see will have at the very end, subject to such and such percent tax and such percent service charge. But it's usually small, it's usually at the end, and if you don't know what you're looking for and you don't know what that means, you might either miss it or gloss over it and it just doesn't register with you what it is that you're looking at. So that's what you're looking at. I'm explaining that right now. That's what it is. So it's something to be aware of as you are talking to caterers if you're trying to plan your own wedding and you're reaching out to caterers. Don't forget that the true cost is going to be much higher than what is showing on that sample menu that you're looking at. So hopefully this has helped you. And you know, if anybody has questions about this or anything else, feel free to leave a comment. You can comment either on Instagram or on YouTube. And if you did find this video interesting and informative and valuable, I would love it if you could give it a like, and you can even subscribe on YouTube to my channel and you'll get notifications of future episodes which come out every week. And I will be back next week to talk about another wedding planning conundrum that you might be having. So until then, have a great week.